So just gripping around the knees, lifting the chest, drawing your shoulders to shoulder blades towards each other. So that you open the collarbones. Just listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Feeling the sensations of the breath as the air inflates the lungs. Soften your jaw, soften your tongue, soften your throat. Just looking down at the floor, looking at something that doesn't move. Bring your hands into Namaste. Pressing the palms firmly together, lengthening from the armpits into the elbows into the heels of the hands up to the fingertips. Just listening to the sounds of the breath as they enter and as they exit. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. So just filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. Breathing into each lung evenly. Exhaling from the top to the bottom. Just feeling how the breath brings in fresh energy. With an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone. Hold on to that feeling as you release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. Just grip around your knees and lift and elevate the chest. So as you inhale, just take a deep in-breath, allowing the lungs to expand upwards and outwards, but also into the shoulder blade region. So that each in-breath really does kind of feel like it introduces energy into the body. Using the out-breath to just release. Take a good deep in-breath, and then with an exhalation, turn to the right side, drawing the abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. Just listening to the sounds of the breath as they enter and as they exit. Just using the out breath to intensify your turn, keeping the neck kind of almost idle as it just turns with the collarbone, drawing the shoulders across, the ribs across, the abdomen across, but keeping the head just completely level. Back to the center, grip around your knees. Take a good deep in breath. And then turn to the left side, drawing the abdomen across, the ribs across, the shoulders across. Listening to the sounds of the breath as they enter and as they exit. Come back to the center. Just come down off your lift and forward into Adho Mukha Virasana. So, Kat, if Adho Mukha Virasana makes you feel a bit sick because you've been a bit poorly this weekend, go into Supta Baddha Konasana on your back, the soles of the feet together, knees apart, just laying down on your back. Otherwise, everyone else just come into Adho Mukha Virasana. So just pressing the palms into the floor, spreading the fingers, spreading the palms. Just take deep inhalations as you come down. And don't be in a rush to get into the maximum. In fact, I want you to go to your kind of 90%. And then gently bring your head down. So extend and exert effort to 90%. It's difficult to know where 90% is entirely, but it's not kind of just complete jelly. It's not hard as a rock. So we're kind of somewhere in between. Go to 90% effort. And then extend to 91. So it's still not complete 100% effort, but it's 91%, 92%. Come up onto your knees, have your hands as wide apart as your mat, stretch the thumbs towards each other, really press the palms into the floor, turn your toes under. Keep the knees bent as you come up into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then begin to straighten your legs. Again, go to 90% rather than 100% effort. So that means that you're working with activation and observation, or observation and activation, but you don't kind of go into kind of rock hard action. So you find that level of 90, and from there we can increase to 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, but never going all the way to 100, because that is often overworking. So just hold the pose. Hold the pose with definite focus and concentration, but don't go so far that you start to get out of breath, or you start to feel like you're overworking. Finding 90%. Activate the legs as in Tadasana, rotating the fronts of the legs inwards, the backs of the legs broadening out, the inner heels hitting away from each other, lifting the seat bones up towards the ceiling. So the more you can hit the inner heels apart, the more you can lift up into the seat bones. Okay, step forward, come up into a standing position, and then have your feet wide apart as your mat with your toes turned in, so that the outer edge of your mat is in line with the outer edge of the foot. Lift and open the chest, drive the chest upwards, raise the arms up, thumbs into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows, and then hang down in Uttanasana. So in Uttanasana, the legs are the drivers of the pose. They need to work really determinedly. So just focus on lifting the action of the legs. Just observe them first. Just observe where they're kind of up to. in terms of effort. And then it's almost as though you're lifting the skin from the ankles up to the kneecaps, up to the thighs, up to the hips. So work at 90% and then extend into 91, 92, 93. Just find how you can just find that right level of work. To be honest, are you at 90 or are you at 70 or are you at 100? So trying to observe through the feeling of the pose. So we do the pose, and then the next stage of doing is feeling. And until we feel the pose, until our brain is entirely engaged in the feeling of the pose, we can't really progress. So feel the pose. When you feel the pose, you can also see the pose. You can see the pose as your body creates a sense of opening and action. So stay and breathe long, slow, deep, deliberate in-breaths and out-breaths. Okay, release your hands down to the floor and then just come up into a standing position. Sorry for keeping you there a long time. And then just come up into a standing position. So I'm expecting a delivery at the place that I rent out and it's not working out. So anyway, inner edge of the feet together, big toes together, heels together, and lift and open the chest. Stretch the arms down. Lift and open the chest. Lengthen from the shoulder down into the fingertips. Listening to the sound of the breath. Your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump the feet nice and wide. Lift and open the chest. Turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. And then come over and find the shin. Turn the chest up to face the ceiling, look up. Breathe nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Tightening the kneecaps, lifting the thigh muscle of that front leg up towards the top of the leg. Just again, gauging the level of activity. Turning the chest upwards, looking upwards. Breathing nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Come back to the center. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Just raise from the feet up into the pelvis, from the pelvis up into the chest, and then come over to the side. Breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. Turning the abdomen up towards the ceiling, lifting the chest up towards the ceiling. Spreading your toes. Turning the chest up to face the ceiling, looking up towards the top hand. Breathing nice and softly, just gauging your level of effort. Come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet together. Just come down into Tadasana. So just use Tadasana to bring the breath back to normal, which you need when the weather is hot. We use Tadasana to just realign our energy. Bring the arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump nice and wide with your legs. Turn your left toes in a little, the right leg and foot all the way out. Lift and open the chest. Keeping the back leg really straight, and then bending the front leg, Virabhadrasana 1. As you come down, try not to lunge over that bent knee. Keep the torso directly at 12 o'clock. Keep that knee bent. Lift and open the chest. Just look over the middle finger with the right hand. And then gauge your energy. Gauge how much energy you're exerting into the pose. Are you gripping? Are you gripping your teeth? Are you gripping the breath? Can you soften the breath? Can you soften and deepen the breath and move into the pose at 90%? And straighten the leg. Swap the feet around. Release your hands for a second. Swap your feet around to turn the right toes in. Left leg and foot all the way up. Lift and open the chest. Keep the chest facing the front. Stretch your arms out. And then bend that front leg. Lift and open the chest. Breathe and push in into the back of into the outside edge of the straight leg. Look over the middle finger. Keep the breath soft. The breath is what I really want you to focus on here, because if you breathe softly, then it's easier to gauge your energy. So fill in the lungs from the bottom to the top. And come back to a straight leg, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together, coming back into Tadasana. So just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, softening your jaw, softening your tongue. So we're going to do Prasarita Padottanasana, so it's the wide foot pose. You might want some blocks for your hands to get those if you feel that you might need them. So this is just to find the floor as you bring your legs apart. Let's come back into Tadasana in the center of your mat. Lifting and opening the chest. And then bring your arms out and then in towards the chest, and then step or jump, go wide. Turn your toes inwards. And then straighten the legs, tighten your kneecaps, and then lengthen the tailbone down and inwards. Lift and open the chest, activate the legs, just focus on your breath for a moment. Focus on deep inhalations, deep exhalations. And then go down on an exhalation. So come halfway, squeezing the elbows towards each other behind you, and then reach down and find the floor. Projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Lifting the chest, lifting the chin towards the front of the room. Hitting the legs back. So hit your legs back so that your weight is in your heels. And then once the weight is in your heels, lift, scoop the seat bones up towards the ceiling a little bit more. Again, just gauge your level of effort. Let your level of effort be kind of controlled with the breath. So be with the breath. Keep the breath deep and soft. Even though there's a lot of demand on the legs. If you can straighten your back at this stage, then keep the front chest elongating, and then bring the head down to the floor. If you can't find the floor with your head, use a block underneath your hands, underneath your head, sorry. Bring the heels of the hands in line with the heels of the feet. And again, just breathe in evenly, keeping the sound of the breath soft, maintaining the evenness of the breath, focusing on the level of effort through the breath. So working at 90% rather than 100, allowing the breath to really determine that level. Okay, lift the chest, come up to the halfway point. Bring the heels of the hands down onto the floor, and then just step or jump the feet back in towards each other, and then come up into Tadasana. Just drawing your attention back to your breath, working at 90. With an exhalation, raise your arms in Urdhva Hastasana. So the arms are parallel, the palms are turned inwards, thumbs are stretching towards the back of the room. The little finger side is reaching up towards the ceiling. Just focusing on the breath. Focusing on 90% effort. Extending to 91, 92, 93, but never quite reaching 100, because eventually where 95 is, once you hold it and breathe into it, then that 95 maybe, without lessening the effort, becomes 92, and you can extend a little further without overdoing it. So you can move incrementally into the pose. Okay, release your hands down to the floor, and then come back down into your knees, palms of the hands shoulder width apart, spreading the palms nice and broadly, stepping back, turning your toes under, having your feet hip width apart, and then come up into Adho Mukha Svanasana. So just avoid walking your hands towards your feet or vice versa. Press the palms into the floor, just observe the effort, observe the feeling of the pose, and then activate for evenness, activate to 90%. So the process is observation, activation, sensitivity. Observation from activation. So we use the feeling of the pose to, first we observe it, and then we activate it, and then we go back to that feeling, and we create a visual image of the body. Even though there's parts of the body that we can't see, we can feel them. Keeping the breath soft, keeping the activity at 90, not 100. Every now and then extending from 90 into 95, but incrementally, and then holding, and then that 95 maybe becomes 93. So extending to 95 again. If I'm holding you too long, then just rest down. If you can stay and maintain for just a little longer, then do. Maintaining softness in the breath even when the pose starts to become more effort. Because the softer the breath, the less perceivable effort. Okay, everyone come down onto your knees, sit back on your heels, and then stretch forwards again into Adho Mukha Virasana. Just breathing with consciousness, with awareness of the effort of the pose, listening to the pose as the breath enters and exits, but listening to the pose from the feeling. Just as we see the pose through the feeling, we can hear the pose through the feeling. Okay, sit back on your heels and then just lift and open the chest. And then just release the legs and just sit with the legs in Dandasana, so stretching out. So in Dandasana, you might want to sit on a folded blanket. In fact, for these poses, I think it's good for everyone to sit on a little lift. So a folded blanket at the very least. So just sit yourself on a little lift and then just extend the legs away. So if you've got these kind of foam blocks, these are really good for kind of, you can sit on 2 levels of those, or a folded blanket, or you can just layer up some of these blocks as well, and then have a belt where you can reach it. So extend the legs away, so you can have your feet slightly apart to start off with. Just roll over, move the buttock flesh back and out to the side, back and out to the side, so the seat bones are kind of connected to the floor. Just get your belt and hook the belt around your feet. Push the feet into the belt and then bring the big toes together, but you can have the heels slightly apart. So first of all, just hold on to the belt and lengthen from the hip consciously along the back edge of, along the back skin of the leg. So you lengthen from the hip all the way down to the back of the knee, from the back of the knee down into the heels. Tadasanaizing the fronts of the legs, turning the fronts of the legs inwards, the fronts of the thighs, the fronts of the shins inwards, the inner knees down towards the floor. So you feel the calf skin kind of resisting the mat. So lift and open the chest, drive the spine upwards. Just staying in this first stage of Dandasana, just charging up the legs. And then just focus on your breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Working the legs at 90, the chest rising out of the hips up into the armpits, keeping the shoulders down, lengthening the neck up. Paying attention to the sounds of the breath. Keeping the breath deep and soft. If there's no problem with your back, you're just going to shorten the distance between your feet and the hands. So crawl your hands down the belt a little. But if there's problems with your back, just stay at this first stage, really just working to lift and elevate. If you're coming forwards, then don't come forwards with your shoulder blades kind of pushing out like this. So we don't want this kind of tortoise shell back, because you're just going to hurt your back that way. If you have to lift the front chest, so from the abdomen up towards the diaphragm up towards the collarbone, so that the back straightens. And then as you come forwards, you maintain this lift of the chest. So see if you can maybe find your feet, but not at the expense of this. We don't want that. We don't want to kind of round the back. We want the front of the chest to rise up. Press the thighs down into the floor, press the kneecaps into the floor, press the shins into the floor, and lift and open the chest. Breathe in nice and softly in through the nose and out through the nose. If you can bend your elbows out to the sides, but again, keeping the back straight. As soon as you start to feel the back starting to round, especially the upper back, then you've gone too far. Just working with the effort of the breath. Moving more deeply into the pose as the breath allows. Making the breath, the body accommodate the breath, making the breath accommodate the body. Okay, and then just come back to the center. I'm just going to turn around so I'm facing you. So staying on the blocks, just pull your legs into Baddha Konasana. So just make sure that you're sitting level, and then just pull the legs in for Baddha Konasana. You can always use the belt around the underside of your feet, around the little toe side, just to hold on. It just gives you more. Sometimes there's several versions of holding the feet in this pose. You can hold the big toes, you can grip around the whole of the toes. But I think sometimes those versions make you kind of drop here. You can hold onto the shins. I find that helps you to lift and open the chest. But using the belt also gives me anyway more space to lift and open the chest, to broaden the chest. So breathe consciously into the breath, trying to keep the breath soft. So breathing into the breath sounds like a strange kind of way to describe it. But actually, that's what we're doing. We're breathing into the breath. Just listen to the sound of the breath. Just look down at the floor. Look at something that's not moving. Rising the abdomen flesh up towards the diaphragm area, up towards the collarbone. Gathering the shoulder blades together, keeping the breath soft. Working at 90 to 90%. And just gently release and stretch your legs out. So you'll need to sit on a higher lift for this. So either two of these blocks will probably be okay, but then if you've got just these types of blocks, then put a blanket on top. So you've got some space. These foam pads are really good for this. So you can just kind of sit on a couple of those. or you can just sit on a couple of blocks, but you need to be quite high up for this. So you might need your belt as well to keep that handy. So Vajrasana, one of the kind of turning poses. So have your hands on the floor. See if you can reach the floor. If you can't reach the floor, just have your hands, your thumbs on the blocks behind you. But lift and open the chest, and then bring the feet just slightly apart. And then get hold of the back of the right knee, and then draw that right knee in. Now the toes are going to kind of stretch over beyond this outer thigh. You really want this heel to be kind of underneath the kind of outside of your thigh, so you can see the instep of your foot. You don't have to kind of reach over very far. You can see the instep of your foot. So this knee is kind of moving inward slightly. The heel is on the outside edge of your hip, and then get hold of the left leg, and then you bring that left leg into Virasana. So the feet, so this shin sits in the instep of that other foot, and then these knees are level. Now at this stage, it probably feels like you're kind of really rolling over, and that's probably the case for most of us. So, and it feels like that for me. So you get hold of the buttock flesh and draw it out to the side. Do it on both sides so that you feel like you're kind of allowing yourself a little more evenness under the hips. If you still don't feel level underneath the hips, just lift yourself up and just move the blanket out to the side so that just the right buttock bone is sitting on the blanket and the left one is kind of hanging off the edge a little, so that it kind of brings a little more levelness here. So just press the fingertips into the floor, lift and open the chest, and then rise up with the left hand. Reach up towards the ceiling, really spread the palm to get the little fingers to stretch towards the front of the room, the thumb to stretch towards the back of the room, and then lengthen into each individual finger. And then reach around with your right hand, and then find the blocks that you're sitting on, and then press the hand really firmly into the blocks, and then turn the chest, drawing the abdomen across, keeping that left hand lifted, turning the abdomen, and then bring the left hand down onto the outside of the right knee, lift and open the chest, and then turn. So we're turning the abdomen first, turning the abdomen, the ribs, the shoulders. Breathing nice and softly. So Vajrasana. Just listen to the breath and move with the out breath. And then just gently come back to the center. Just adjust the blanket if you moved it out of the way, and then just stretch your legs out in front. So extend the legs away, lift and open the chest, drive the chest open, and then bring the feet hip width apart. Just breathe nice and slightly wider than hip width apart. Just breathe nice and softly. Get hold of the back of the left knee, and then bring that foot. So keep this leg back in, bring this leg back into Tadasana, or into Dandasana rather. And then, so this knee is kind of, this outer thigh is kind of sucking inwards a little. The heel is sitting underneath the kind of outside edge of the thigh, and you can see your toes are pointing out this way, and you can see the instep. So just feel that you're kind of relatively level to start off with, and then bring the the right leg, bring that into Virasana. So this shin sits in the instep, and then just adjust. So feel that you can just move the buttock flesh out to the side, and again, maybe just adjust that blanket on the top so that you feel that you're sitting evenly on the hips, on the seat bones. So just make sure that you feel kind of relatively level. So I'm not feeling very level, so I'm just going to have to move this buttock flesh out to the side a bit more. So your knees are level in front of you, and then I want you to lift and open the chest and then raise up the right hand. Spread the fingers, stretch the little fingers towards the front, the thumb toward the back, and then lengthen into each individual finger in between. Reach around with the left hand, find the blocks that you're sitting on, dig the hand into the floor and then turn. Breathe in nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Bring that top hand down onto the knee, lift and open the chest. Breathe in nice and softly, in through the nose and out through the nose. Turning the abdomen, ribs, the shoulders, keeping the neck soft. So as you turn, make sure that you feel even underneath the seat bones. You don't kind of feel like you're kind of rolling over onto that left buttock bone. Feel that you're kind of evenly working with the hips. Okay, and then just gently come back to the center and then stretch your legs out in front, lift and open the chest. Good, so that's a good kind of open extension and turn, and then I want you to come down onto your back and just bring yourself down onto the floor, pull the feet towards you, knees apart, come down into Supta Baddha Konasana. So breathe in nice and softly, keeping the tongue and the jaw soft. Listening to the sound of the breath. Stretch the arms up towards the ceiling. Stretch the thumbs towards the front of the room, the little fingers towards the front of the room, the thumbs towards the back of the room. Lengthen into each individual finger and then interlock the fingers. Turn the palms all the way out. Don't worry about cracks and pops, that's good. And then lengthen your arms along the floor. Use blocks underneath your hands if there's stiffness in your shoulders. You can use blocks to support the thighs if there's stiffness in your hips. Otherwise, just feel the kind of really the openness in the armpit chest. Just focus on maintaining the breath. So within our practice, we often kind of give ourselves some relatively strenuous poses and sequences to work through. But unless we can keep the breath deep and still and soft, then we get tired really easily. If we can focus on the breath, if we can keep the breath as soft and as deep as it is right now, then we find our energy within the pose, because we work with intention and extension and direction, but we don't exhaust ourselves. Release your hands and then swap the interlock of the fingers, so you do the unnatural interlock. Turn the palms all the way up, squeezing the outer elbows in, and then extending your arms over your head. So you're just doing the unnatural interlock of the fingers. Again, just focusing on the deep in breaths and the deep out breaths. Okay, and then release your hands. Just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Spend a few moments just to listen to the sound of the breath. Just letting the hands relax, letting the arms relax. Resting your hands on your lower ribs so that you can feel the breath from the outside. There's a natural rising of the in-breath as you inhale and a lowering of the I think I just said the wrong words. There's a natural rising of the abdomen with the in-breath and a natural lowering of the abdomen with the out-breath. There's a natural expansion of the rib cage, which you feel if your hands are resting on your diaphragm region. So a natural expansion and a natural contraction with the out-breath. Just the more we can encourage that openness for the in-breath, the more we can breathe without resistance, and the more we can ingest each energy, we can ingest the energy of each breath. Okay, when you're ready, just gently draw your knees together, have your knees together, your feet apart, just staying on your back, just giving yourself a kind of a release in your hips. And then pull your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself a gentle massage on the spine. And then just gently roll over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. Just allowing the body to just gently release. And then straighten out the top leg, come up into a seated position. And then let's just prepare ourselves for Shavasana. So a folded blanket, folded evenly for your head. And then just lay yourself down on the floor. Have the shoulders touching having the shoulders touching the blanket. Just move any equipment out of the way that is kind of preventing you from just stretching out. Make sure that your legs are in a good straight line. So do Tadasana with your legs, and then let the legs just gently fall apart. So when the weather is warm, as we're experiencing right now, our energy is different, our bodies feel different. Maybe our bodies feel more flexible than usual, but our energy is likely to be a little lower. So we have been focusing on 90% effort towards 95, focusing on the depth and the softness of the breath, observing the expansion of the chest. And if you can keep your breath soft throughout your practice, whether you're doing Trikonasana, Parivrita Trikonasana, Parivrita Parsvakonasana, headstand, shoulder stand, whatever, if you can keep your breath as soft as it is now, then you can work through those strenuous poses without exhausting yourself. Soften your eyeballs and down into the chest cavity. Soften the jaw and the tongue. Just letting the body release, unhooking the muscles so that the limbs become heavy on the floor. At which stage you start to feel the energy of the body rising to the top of the skin. Using your in and out breaths to distribute that energy around the body. So when you're ready to disturb yourself, just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, just bring your body back into this pose of Shavasana. And then draw your knees in towards your chest, pull your knees towards your chest, just rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving yourself a gentle massage on the spine. And then just gently roll over onto your right side, just stay down for a breath or two. Just take some deep breaths. And then straighten out the top leg, come back into a seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in the mat, just a final spinal lift. As you sit up, just notice how your energy kind of rises from the hips up into the chest. Bring your hands into Namaste, close your eyes. Draw your breath in through your nose, down into the abdomen. Samanic breath, connecting the physical body to the energetic body, feeling how you've released energy through a sequence of poses. Just feeling that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the reclining poses bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest to meet up towards your chin. Take a good deep in breath. Become conscious of the energy that you've released through your practice this morning. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. Then gently release your head, release the hands down towards the knees, palms facing upwards. Raise your head as you release and open your eyes and bring your eyes back into focus. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel like on this really warm morning, you feel like you've given yourself a little bit of kind of extra energy that you can inject into the rest of your day. So thank you very much.